All right, welcome everybody. Welcome to Talkin Investing. You're here with Tom and George.
Sleepyhead.
Hello, George. How you doing?
Good, Tom. I'm doing good. How you doing?
I'm doing all right, all things considered. How's everybody else out there doing? Hello. I see a bunch of members in the chat. Hello to all the members. Another Friday sell-off. This is like the new thing. And it's the old thing. We had a little bit of a break for a few months, and now here we go again. So Bitcoin was down, the Bitcoin miners were down, a couple of them were down double digits, but I did update the charts through the end of the day today, and we'll take a look, and it was not a bad week, but today was a bad day. And it was a little bit overdue, and so, I mean, I don't think anybody's probably shocked at what went on here today, but it still does not feel good on these red days for the Bitcoin miners and on red days for Bitcoin. And we're going to take a look at the ETF flows, and Bitcoin sentiment is low right now. There's a lull going on. Short-term momentum is down, but I am still optimistic midterm, long-term.
I'll tell you what, Tom, I've never been more confident in my life. I don't think we're getting 59. I think that this was probably as low as we can go, right? At least this time.
You think this was the washout today?
Yeah. I did get a new computer, Chuck. Yeah, I think this is the washout right now.
Well, we kind of got to, let me get the, okay, so hopefully you guys should see the chart in a second. I just switched over so that you guys can see the chart. So you can see, the last couple hours, we had a push up, only one, this is the 15-minute chart. We only have one red candle on the 15-minute chart in the last couple hours. So, we recovered off of the lows, but we did get down to 63, let's see. What did we get down to? 63,300. So just around 63,300. And that is, so I'm going to switch over to the 1 day. I mean, the last time we were there was we had this giant update on May 15th. That's over a month ago. So we did not hit, this is the first time in let's see, did we get into the 63,000s here on this day? Nope, 64,010. So today is the first day under 64,000 in over a month. But I do see, I'll point out right away. All right, I see George is making a potential Bitcoin prediction in the background.
Yeah.
If we look at, we like to look at this. This is one of the main things. I won't say one of the main things, but the Bitcoin daily RSI is now down, and it was even lower than this today, but you can see it's down somewhere around 36 or 37. This yellow line at 33, this line on the daily RSI has held for over the last year, and you can see we've touched it. So, 30 is usually considered oversold. Bitcoin does get lower than this. I mean, if we have some of these flash crash type deals, we can get down. I've got a green line at 21. We have touched this line on the 1 day. Very rare, but it can happen. But more normally, here in this bull market, for the last year plus, we're very near a reset. So it may just be that we're over the weekend, we reset this thing. So that's probably the optimistic point of view, is that, this peaked a month ago on May 20th. And we've spent the last month, kind of trending down, getting very close to a full reset. And the other way on the 1 day time frame, by the way, hold on. If you guys could please smash the like button. It does help the live stream out in real time, and it is much appreciated. We have a record low number of people and likes right now. So I think that people are exhausted and worn out with Bitcoin right now. So those of you who are here, if you could smash the like button, let's get let's get this thing going. I know today was a rough day, but I always say, if you guys remember, these are the days I think everybody should get together and kind of have a chat and look at what's going on, because all too many people freak out on these down days. You know, we got 7, 8, 9, 10, 12% move to the downside for some of these Bitcoin miners. And, you know, I think that's it's easy to get together and celebrate on a giant up day. But, you know, for those of you who are, you know, buy and hold, or I know we have day traders, swing traders, we have long term. I'm more of a buy and hold long term.
Dude, you have to be brilliant for the last 2 days to make any money and get out and get in. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I was
massive amount of
crushing it this.
volatility.
I was crushing it this week, Tom. This was my best week ever, and I walk away from the computer for just an hour, and it's like they know.
You had a lot of good days in a row, and then you got whammied on Friday.
Yep.
So
Whammy, whammy, no whammies.
no whammies. Thank you guys for the likes. We're up to 38, so if you could smash the like button. Are people really that defeated?
Oh my God, yes.
I know.
Today was rough.
Today was rough, and I mean, you can see we're now, I mean, let's just do.
Dude, we thought, so the 10K challenge, we thought we were going over 9K.
Yeah,
Let's see what it is.
Turned around.
Let's see how that's going to be telling. You know that. So when we looked last time, it was basically hovering at $8,500. This is going to be telling.
Yeah, I'm sure today was not a good day. I don't know why this
Oh,
thing's not doing
$7,300.
Yeah, that's
we lost $1,200
that's ugly.
in one day.
Oh, I'm doing a trend line. I need to be doing an info line. Sorry, everybody. I'm trying to go through here. So, okay. Today is day 114 of Bitcoin going sideways. Crypto Fever, thank you for the super chat. Crypto Fever said, I ain't worried about any of this price action. Go to Bitcoin weekly chart, January 15th, 2024 till now. Bitcoin plus RSI showing strong, hidden bullish divergent, violent move loading soon. So I'll try and take a look at that and see if we can see that. That's the weekly chart. You're saying Bitcoin weekly chart? So let's switch to the Bitcoin weekly chart. Let me try and get to a cleaner chart here. So this is the S&P 500, just to get sidetracked for a second. If you look, this week, this was Monday, the S&P 500 hit a new all-time high. Tuesday, the S&P 500 hit a new all-time high. Wednesday, the market was closed. Thursday, the S&P 500 hit a new all-time high again, and then we kind of turned around and had a pullback. So, you know, the markets are doing incredibly well, but let's get back to this Bitcoin 1 week chart and see if we can. All right, so this was kind of the breakout here. Let's see if I got a cleaner. Man, we got nonsense all over everything, but that's all right. Let's go one. Come on, I got to have a clean chart in here somewhere. Let's just get rid of this line. Go to the 1 week. Yeah, look at look at the RSI on the 1 week. So, you know, we are still okay, so it's a hidden bullish divergence. Right. So it's not your standard divergence.
How come it's hidden?
Well, there's just different chart patterns. The let's find a standard. Well, I can probably bring this up and just show. This is a good, thank you, Crypto Fever. This is a good moment to show everybody just a tiny little. A lot of you may know this. Give me something. Give me a... All right, let me find this in the background. I thought I would find a good chart. Here we go. I think this is... Oh, for crying out loud. All right, I'm going to come back to this because I can't find a good chart of this. Ordinarily, this would just pop right up. But so a normal, I'll just try and get back to this. A normal divergence would be lower highs on the chart and higher lows on the RSI. So that would be a regular bullish divergence. So there's a bullish divergence, a hidden bullish divergence, and I guess we won't do this lesson for everybody right now, but we'll just let you know there is a hidden bullish divergence on the 1 week. And you can see you got to go all the way back to really October of 2023 when we were last at this level. So
that's not good. Scott's saying, no, Scott, I didn't get a chance to ask how much more money they had to fund. And then he said, we need 45 cents on CleanSpark to be even for the week. They're selling hard at the end of the day with 3.5 mil on the close.
I'm gonna show that what everyone did during the week, because the week does not look that bad. You know, today is awful, but all it really did for some of them, it was, let's instead of talking about it, let's go take a look at it. That is not the week. This is last year. So just as a reminder, last year was a good year for the Bitcoin miners and Bitcoin, 2023. Okay, so let's get to today. This was this week. Bitcoin was down 2% as of the close. This is as of the close of the US equity markets, which was a half an hour ago as of right now. So Bitcoin was down 2% week over week. And you can see there were some Bitcoin miners in the green. Most of the Bitcoin miners performed similarly or outperformed still. So our trend is still holding up. However, a few had a rough week. Cypher was down 8% this week. Riot was down 9% this week. Core Scientific down 13% this week. But if you look at Cypher and Riot, Core Scientific was flat on the day. So that had a little bit of a pullback, but Core Scientific has been the #1 performing stock out of the Bitcoin miners. It pulled at its peak, it was close to a quadruple. So, it's doing a little bit of a pullback. But let me go back there, and which were the two were we looking for here? So Riot and Cypher, if you look at those two, so Cypher was down 13% today, and Riot was down 8% today. So if you take today out, those two were doing just fine this week. In fact, Cypher was up on the week until today. And then Riot was kind of flat on the week. I will tell you, Riot continues to kind of just be in a very big lull, as does Marathon. I think Riot and Marathon are in a very big consolidation period. That's my personal opinion, not financial advice. But to me, I do think they're going through, while some others are running, they're consolidating. And I think that there's a move ahead between now and the end of the year for those two in a big way. That's my personal opinion. Robin, thank you for the super chat. Robin said, Germany selling seized Bitcoin on the open market didn't do us any favors. I bought more Bitfarms. So I think it was $450 million of Bitcoin that Germany sold on the open market today. So we do get a lot of these moves. We'll talk about, you guys probably know MicroStrategy bought, a bunch of Bitcoin. So, there's a lot of ins and outs. The outflows this week on the ETFs, I think, are really, dictated the movement to the downside overall this week. Also, I'll bring up an article, on whales over the last few weeks doing some big selling. And we're really a couple of solid weeks into some short-term downward momentum. George is thinking maybe today was the day that we kind of bottomed out and washed out.
Well, the moon is what makes me think it's today.
So let's just do a quick poll.
That's good, Barry.
Sorry for the all capitals. I'm not screaming at you. I just must have been
Yeah, I
in
sold
cap
the
mode.
the hut out of the 10K challenge.
Yes, we got the high on that one, right?
Yeah. Well, I sold that, and then I had some bets, and I sold that.
But you had just literally only
Yeah, like
few
$4
dollars.
or something like that.
Right.
So the only thing we have left now is Bitfarms, CleanSpark, and Marathon.
Yes. So Pogo is asking, what do you think? Why do you think Hut popped yesterday? So I'll answer that in two ways. Number one, George did call me and he was like, I think this is a good opportunity to get out of Hut. And I was like, I agree 100%. So I feel like we got, that's, that one we got right. And why did it pop yesterday? I have absolutely no idea why that popped yesterday. I don't, some of these things make strange moves. These are very small stocks. I will say with Hut, it's now June 21st, and they have not put out their May monthly operational report. Last month, they put it out, I think, on the 7th day of the month. It's now the 21st day of the month. Everybody else has had their operational reports out for a couple of weeks. I don't know. I mean, at this point, are they not doing monthly operational updates anymore? That would be a massive shift in what management is doing if they're not going to put out a monthly update, in my opinion, because this is now, it's not really an opinion. This is an industry standard. All 12 of these companies that we follow put out monthly operational reports and have for a year or years. So to stop doing that, I mean, there's a couple of key numbers. In addition to, some of these reports are more comprehensive than others. And in certain of these reports, there's a plethora of information, and there's companies doing a lot of stuff on a monthly basis. But at a bare minimum, we get two numbers that we can measure. And that is the number of Bitcoin that the company mined in a month and what their HODL position is. And for Hut, which has the second largest HODL position out of all the Bitcoin miners, if you're investing in that, it is highly likely that that is a big part of your investment thesis. The fact that they have 9,000 Bitcoin on their balance sheet, which is the majority of the value of their market cap. So, so we don't know if they have 9,000 Bitcoin. It would, I'm waiting for that monthly update. I would be disappointed if they're no longer going to give monthly updates. So I'm a little bit confused by what's going on with Hut. Robin saying, I think Hut just had a really nice short covering rally. Hut really needs to give an update. Yeah, I mean, it's mystifying to me. I don't know. This is the 21st. Nobody's waited until the 21st for their monthly update. So it's a kind of a question mark. And the fact that, their stock not only did just fine, but yesterday pumped when they're, so I don't know. We'll see what happens. I think it's a little bit mysterious.
Did we start to worry about Bitfarms?
You're worrying about Bitfarms?
Yeah, when?
When?
Right.
I am encouraged by Bitfarms.
You're encouraged?
Well, I'm encouraged by the price action on Bitfarms. Bitfarms did have, what was it, a week ago, a positive press release where they added some significant, I would have to look it up to see exactly what they did, but they had their first positive kind of, and I will look it up because we're talking about it. Here's what I'm encouraged about. So you can see they were down 5.77%. That's actually a little better than most of the Bitcoin miners did today. There were a few that did even better than this, but they're at $2.94. They are trading at a massive premium, even after a pullback over the last couple of days, to this $2.30 bid to buy them out. So I think that this price action is very encouraging. So, yeah, so Bitfarms enters into agreement to develop 120 megawatts in the United States, which further diversifies because Bitfarms, while they're in a lot of different places in the world, most of their stuff is in Canada. Most of the stuff they're planning is in Paraguay. They also have significant capacity in Argentina. And now they're adding a bunch of capacity in the US, and they upped their guidance to 35 exahash by the end of 2025. So that was all you can see. That was 8 days ago. So that was in the middle of last week. And since that time, the stock really ran away from this $2.30 that was kind of a magnet on one side or the other. So now, even if Riot pursues, the other thing worth noting, and I think I have this open, let me take a look. So on June 13th, that was last Thursday, Riot announced that they have 14% ownership in Bitfarms. So Bitfarms Poison Pill kicks in at 15%. We're now a week and 1 day later, and Riot has not put out another announcement. So it seems like with the press release that Bitfarms put out, with the price action that's gone on with Bitfarms, it feels to me like Riot's in a holding pattern right now. So it's like the next move is Riot's.
You believe Riot has 15%.
Well, they have to tell us if they have 15%.
But how long do they have to wait?
Somebody let us know. Somebody will know the answer. It's a very short period of time. Somebody let us know what the answer to that is. But they do have to report this ownership, and they will report, and more importantly, Bitfarms will report it because their poison pill will kick in. So essentially,
I can't believe they would go to 14% and stop. You know what I mean?
Well, they went right to the brink. They were at 12.5%, I think, when Bitfarms put this poison pill in place. So, it's not like they bought 14% after that. So they pushed right up to the brink, and now they're holding.
They probably did it today.
They may have. I mean, we thought last week we kind of said, well, by the end of next week, which is now this week, we thought we would know the answer to this. But it seems like, there was a little bit of a pause in the action. And I know we talk a bunch about this Riot and Bitfarms situation, but this would be, the biggest merger and acquisition in the history of the space, by a mile. So, it's worth spending time on. And, these are two of the big Bitcoin miners. And to put it in perspective, I mean, Bitfarms alone is planning to get to 21 exahash in 2024 and 35 exahash in 2025. And Riot's planning to get to 31 exahash in 2024 and 40 plus exahash in 2025. So, I mean, these are big.
And 60 in 26.
That's right. With a pathway to 100, and, they're generic about that at some point in the distant future. But right, these companies have big plans. Having said that, Marathon still remains, in size by far the largest. They're targeting 50 exahash by the end of 2024. So that will keep them the largest by a pretty decent margin, as long as they keep their stuff online. And it seems like they've gotten, through. They had about a 3-month issue where a lot of machines were offline, and it was affecting their output. But this, in the month of May. Well, let's take a look at that. In the month of May, they mined by far the most Bitcoin. And I think that will be true the rest of the year this year. But you never know. Anything can happen. So, Marathon mined 616 Bitcoin in May. Core Scientific was in second place at 447. And CleanSpark was in a close third at 417. So, I do think CleanSpark will... It seems like CleanSpark will probably flip Core Scientific. Iris Energy is going to start to make a run because they're talking about getting to 30 exahash by the end of 2024. So if they do that, then in the fourth quarter, they're going to make a run at, Core Scientific and CleanSpark from a production standpoint in all likelihood. those four have much bigger plans. Riot also plans to get to 30 exahash, but until they can show the world that, they're going to produce the same amount per exahash as their peers, then they're probably not going to compete with the number of Bitcoin mined per month. It does get a little more complicated. They get big energy credits certain months of the year, but I think you're going to see Marathon, Core Scientific, CleanSpark, and Iris in 2024 really pull out ahead. These three already are ahead by a mile. And Marathon is very comfortably in first place, where it would be hard for me to imagine, unless something, it's on them. Something would have to go wrong with Marathon for them to not, mine the most Bitcoin every single month the rest of the year. And that doesn't mean that other people aren't going to have a great, successful year. I think a lot of these Bitcoin miners are going to have very good years. So did Bitcoin bottom out today? Right now, we're at 60% yes, 40% no. So it's a pretty close. If you're here and you can have a device you can vote on, vote, and then we'll close that out pretty soon. Also, if you can smash the like button, we're at 59 likes, going for 100 likes for starters.
Snail said that they felt Bitcoin was going to go to 55 to close out the descending channel.
55? Who said that?
Snail. Who was it?
Somebody in the chat?
Swift Snail, yeah. And I don't disagree that they were trying to. I just don't think it's gonna get there.
So I mean, if we go to I'll get rid of this trend line. This is I put this light blue line here. This is day 114. So this is a long stretch to go sideways. But after the last two halvings, Bitcoin did hang around sideways for a long period of time. So, trying to guess when this thing is going to take off, it's very difficult. And we're going to go through some of the big factors that are going on right now that I'm going to use the word manipulate, but affect the price of Bitcoin in the short term in a big way. So we're very sideways right now. We did get down, but my point of going here was, and I'm going to get rid of this trend line. The bottom, this was 56,500, according to this chart, exactly to the penny, was the low on May 1st. So, of the last, coming up on 4 months now, we got down one time. Really, this line at 61,900, you can see here we got below it one day and then raced right back above it the next day. The only time we really stayed below this line, we had a 2-day big move to the downside here, and then the next 2 days got us right back above. So this has been a super strong line of support at 61,900, call it $62,000. So, in my mind, I guess, if we bounced off of that, I certainly wouldn't be shocked. We're having these, we had this move to the downside. We had this move to the downside, both of which tested this line. Then, this one kind of went below, but just for a super short period of time. And now this one didn't get there. So we'll see. Just based on that, now that we're this far through, it would not be a shock to see a little bit more move to the downside. If we go back to the one-day RSI, there's a little more room to the downside here. If this were to bounce off of this 33 that's held, or even 30, that could bring this down to 62,000. And you guys could be right. It could go to 57 or 55. Who knows? I think if it does, I feel more inclined that will be more of a flash, 1, 2, 3 days than, spending an extensive period of time there. But, there's a lot. We just had the halving. So, it feels like a long time ago, but usually it's a significant period of time after the halving before Bitcoin reaches its peak.
If I take and put an order in for Bitcoin, what's the line at?
My line is at 61,900.
61. Oh, what's the other one? What's the 57 one?
Oh, 57,500. This is the Bitcoin Coinbase chart on TradingView, just for everybody's information, FYI. So they have the bottom being at exactly $56,500.00.
So should I put an order at 56,500?
It can't hurt. All it has to do is get there for 1 second.
I think I'm going to do that. I think I'm going to put it in. Why not?
Chris Dominator saying Riot should dump Bitfarms and take profits. And that's another thing to be careful of. So that's a good point, Chris, is that at some point, if Riot does move on from this situation, if that's ultimately what they're doing, they hold 14% of the stock and they will dump it. And so that probably will be a short-term hit on, Bitfarm stock. I don't think they're going to dump it all in one day and bite off their nose to spite their face. They'll probably average out of it in as short a window as they can, but that will be downward pressure on Bitfarm stock if that happens. If that's how all of this ends, but who knows how all this ends or when all of this ends between these two. This could go on and on and on.
Did you see the updated count of the whole coins for Bitcoin wallets and how they've almost dropped 100,000 wallets?
No.
Yeah.
So is that people are selling? So
let's put it this way. Retail is selling, but the big boys are getting bigger.
So I got 3 negative articles. Let me just go through these real quick. We'll get the negativity and FUD out of the way, and then we'll switch. We're at 66 likes. If everybody could help us out and smash the like button. We doubled our viewers, so let's get some more people on the stream. Just want to show you, this just goes to, I'm going to talk about 2 things. I'll start here. So the Bitcoin ETFs post $900 million in net outflows this week. Thursday marked the 5th straight day of net outflows for the U.S. listed ETFs. I'm going to show you a couple of charts in a minute that show exactly what happened. We had an epic streak, I think 18 days in a row of inflows. That's the longest since these guys started, which was only in January. So obviously these are still fairly new. But after a historic inflow streak, we now had 5 days of outflow, and I think 7 out of 8 days. And today is almost certainly an outflow, which means 8 out of the last 9 days, the ETFs have had a net outflow. So that's that might be the worst run they've had, and we'll look at those charts. But this is a big reason Bitcoin has pushed so hard to the downside this week. So, I mean, that's why I say trying to predict things in the short term, we look at the technicals, we look at so many different things, but in the very short term, who knows, then all of a sudden you have, like one of our members pointed out, Germany sold $425 million of Bitcoin. Now, on the flip side, over the weekend or maybe Monday, somewhere in that period of time, MicroStrategy bought almost $800 million worth of Bitcoin. So we did have a little pump over the weekend, and maybe that was MicroStrategy buying. I'm not sure. We'll look at the specifics on that too. So this isn't really FUD. This is just a fact. I mean, this was a week of outflows. I think we're going to find when we get today's final numbers that this was another big day of outflows. So that's all 5 days this week. The ETFs were putting downward pressure on the price of Bitcoin. So on those weeks when that's happening, it's going to be hard to counterbalance that. So, there's going to be good weeks and bad weeks.
Okay, I did it.
You put the order in?
Yep.
So then there's this article. Bitcoin whales sold over 1 billion of Bitcoin in the past 2 weeks, and that from CryptoQuant. So if I go back to the 1-day chart, 2 weeks ago was here. So, did these guys average out here between, 71,000 and 60, 70, 69, 68, and now? So at some point, if that happened, if they averaged out here, typically, what the plan is, and if you think about it, this is a lot of money. If you can sell at 70 and buy at 63 or 64 or whatever they push it down to, right? that money in all likelihood did not exit forever. That's probably not money where they said, okay, well, I'm out of Bitcoin and that's it for me. That's the kind of moves that they can make in addition to shorting. So that's what big money can do. So that's another thing that can move Bitcoin in the short term in a downward way. So you've got the ETFs in a downward way. According to CryptoQuant, you've got $1 billion of Bitcoin whales selling over the last 2 weeks. So that's more downward pressure.
It's like I said, I think it's more organized than we realize, by the way.
I think you're right, and I think this article speaks exactly to that. It's not like somehow independently a bunch of people had the same thought at the same time. So,
7 minutes, I'll tell you what's going to happen in 7 minutes.
All right, the clock's
Wait for the 5 o'clock push if it happens.
Potential 5 o'clock push. So
I'm just glad to see Bitcoin moving, though, up and down, personally.
Yeah, I'm just going back to the 15-minute real quick to see. We're back up over 64. We'll see where the daily candle closes. And then, we've got 2 days of weekend where the ETFs don't do anything. So for the last month in particular, the weekends have been pretty boring. So we'll see what happens this weekend.
Yeah, they've been flat. Yeah.
And I think that's going to be, there could be an anomaly, of course, at any time. But I think in general, because the ETFs aren't buying and selling on the weekends, I think that activity is going to be low and much more level over the weekends in general. So the third article, and this one is kind of a negative article, but I think it's actually kind of a positive article. Bitcoin slumps under 64K amid historic negative sentiment. So,
negative.
Lame price action has apparently caused crowd sentiment to be in a negative territory for 4 straight weeks, a sign that may spell relief for bulls in the near term. So, this is what I'm saying, and, to be contrarian, typically this is a sign of a bottoming, right? 4 weeks, and we're seeing it on our stream right now as we speak. People have checked out. A lot of people have moved on to other things in the short term. And so you can see, and this is just one company, one particular company that is saying this is their... The crowd is mainly fearful. This is a quote. The crowd is mainly fearful or disinterested toward Bitcoin, the firm said. And the firm is a firm called Sentiment, if I'm pronouncing this correctly. And they show that the crowd sentiment for Bitcoin is now in its 4th week of extreme negative reading. So the crowd is mainly fearful or disinterested towards Bitcoin, the firm said in an X posting on Friday. This extended level of FUD is rare as traders continue to capitulate. They added Bitcoin trader fatigue combined with whale accumulation generally leads to a bounce that rewards the patience. So this goes to the fact that, yeah, maybe we got 4 weeks in a row of negative sentiment. We've got 4 months now of, bouncing around inside of the same range. But I would still argue, if you look at the charts, we're going sideways for the last 4 months. This would be considered consolidation. We haven't really left the top of this trading range. We haven't really left the bottom of it. And we haven't really gotten near the top or the bottom in quite a while. So we're going sideways. And when you're in a bull market, and we are now 18 or 19 months into a bull market, if, let me see if I go back to the 1 week. You can see the bottom, that's not the bottom. You got to go all the way back to November and December of 2022. That was the bottom. Since then, momentum has been up. So, yeah, we have sideways times. Like, look at this period. This was, from December 4th, and then we broke out of this in February. So, December and January of 2020, December of 2023, January 2024, we had a couple of months sideways. And we've had, this was a long period. We had a big move up in March of 2023, and then we really didn't break out of that until October of 2023. So inside of these giant, so on a larger time frame, we're in a gigantic bull market. And historically speaking, this is not even the biggest part of the move for the bull market. So, we don't know if Bitcoin's going to behave the same way as it did in previous cycles. But if it does, the big part of the move is still ahead. And, until this trend breaks, we are still in a bull market. We're consolidating inside of a bull market, I guess is my point. So for those of you getting discouraged, who knows what the future holds. But right now, the momentum is still up. We're still setting higher lows and higher highs, over an 18 or 19 month window of time. So until that trend breaks, then, I think the move is up. And here's another piece of what affected Bitcoin this week. So this is the DXY. We had a nice period where it looked like this had topped and was moving down, but now this was June 7th. So since June 7th, there was a giant move to the upside. And it's now, June 21st, a couple of weeks later, the last 2 weeks. And we saw that's the move down in Bitcoin. So this move right here, that 2 weeks is, that's this 2 weeks. So once again, the DXY is having a very highly correlated inverse relationship to Bitcoin, which historically it has had. There have been periods of time where that breaks because something else, is having a larger effect. But in general, this tends to be the case. So the US dollar getting stronger and stronger is not healthy for Bitcoin. It's not healthy for anything, really, when it's this high. A lot of that has to do with other central banks are, a lot more dovish than the Fed is here in the U.S. And that is what's causing this strength in the DXY, right? They did the Fed meeting. They didn't lower rates. We knew they weren't going to lower rates. That was not even an issue. But they were a little on the hawkish side. It was higher for longer type talk. And then you had the European Union lowering rates, after that. And so this is not a good move. We want to see this trend reverse. This trend is not our friend at all. And, there's no predicting this. It's moving in the wrong direction. And until, it will do that until it doesn't. And you can see this is very volatile. A lot of big moves up, moves down, move up, down, up. So this has been volatile. But inside of this volatility, we're several years, 2+ years into being above this green line. This green line was, prior to breaking this green line, this was a 20-year high for the US dollar, the DXY, the strength index for the US dollar. So from big picture, you could say in the last 2 years, the DXY has been very high, and yet Bitcoin has still made a massive run in that time. So it can happen, but there is a big correlation here. So this is another pretty big factor that worked against us. It just seemed like this week everything was kind of working against Bitcoin, and yet, but the Bitcoin miners. So let's go back to where we started. This was not a bad week for the Bitcoin miners. So I'm going to go to one other chart just to kind of put in perspective. We've been tracking since April 16th. So that's over 2 months ago now. That's about 2 months plus a week. That was where we thought the bottom was for the Bitcoin miners. So as of last Friday, all the Bitcoin miners were green since then. You can see a couple of them have gone ballistic. So when I say Core Scientific had a bad week this week, they were down 13%. They were up 290% coming into the week in this period of time. So okay, they had a little pullback. If you held core through that whole run, I don't think you're too disappointed right now about that little pullback. Iris Energy up 218%. That's a triple in, just at this point it was 2 months. So from these numbers, the only thing that happened this week was this. So everybody's still green. And this was a so okay week. So I would call this a pause. We've had a 2+ month trend. There was one other week about a month ago where the Bitcoin miners had a little bit of a pause and a little bit of a pullback. And, this was a short trading week in the U.S. The U.S. equity markets were closed on Wednesday. So we had a little bit of a pause. And Bitcoin, did have another little move to the downside. This is not like an epic crash. Bitcoin's down a couple percent this week over week from last Friday. And the winner on this, we talked about earlier, the most mystifying thing on this chart to me is the best performer this week was HUT. So they had no news that I'm aware of. And so who knows? No news. They're actually lacking news because the press release they've been putting out every month for years, they didn't put out this month. So yet their stock is up. So who knows? Whoa, I got to delete some of these lines.
Get on X, see if HUT sent anything today.
Yeah, check it out and see if they did anything after hours. I went to their website. I went to their investor relations. I looked everywhere. I did not see HUT, not a whisper.
Only thing I see is that somebody increased their target price from 12 to 17.
Was it Cantor Fitzgerald? I didn't think that was one of their. I think they did a price increase on 8, and I didn't think HUT was one of them.
Oh, I don't know. It's whoever. I don't know if it's just the inner circle trading group. I don't know who that is. Nobody.
Okay. I want to try and see if I can add.
They had a bull flag yesterday. Glad we took that bull flag.
So we're under. This is the 200-day. We're under. It looks like we are now under the 50-day moving average. So, that's a little bit bearish. And that was all many days now. So it would be nice to see a move back up above that. We're not even in the neighborhood of the 200-day. And we haven't been for a long, long time. So we certainly want to hold that. That's at $58,000. So that would be a point, if we do move to the downside in a big way, I would not want to move underneath that because you can see this whole bull run, we've been above that. And we did get under not only the 200-day moving average. If you guys remember, for really the first time in Bitcoin's history, in the crypto winter, we spent months under the 200-week moving average, which is pretty much a 4-year moving average. We were under that for months. That's never happened before for Bitcoin. It has been under that. It's bounced off of it like 2 times in its history. One time it was under it for like a week. That's it. So Bitcoin does not do that. So this was a rough crypto winter, not to relive what's now ancient history. But so the 200-week moving average is the next important number that I would want to see us hold.
Funny, Sue Enos said on the 12th of June, "Hey team, it's been a while since we've caught up. We're getting the monthly production report out ASAP."
When was that?
What? That was June 12th.
I'm not sure.
Lots of stuff in the hopper.
Means.
Yeah, a lot of stuff in the hopper. In the meantime, let's catch up on a Zoom at 7 o'clock. Dude, that's an issue now.
Yeah, because that's 9 days ago.
Yeah.
That was the 12th?
Yep.
I just don't get a warm and fuzzy feeling. And, I can't say there's no reason to believe anything bad is going on, but there's no reason to believe anything good is going on when they're not putting information out, I guess is what I would say. And uncertainty, here's the number one thing the market hates. I guess the number two thing. The number one thing would just be straight up bad news, but uncertainty. People do not invest in uncertainty. So having said that, HUT was the winner this week in particular. When we look at the weekly chart, right, for whatever mysterious reason, HUT overperformed this week. But if we go to the last 2 months, let's take a look at where they sit. So they're in the middle. I mean, they've been keeping up with the rest of the Bitcoin miners. Now, another reason is, right, they have, and we don't know if they've changed this, but they have the second largest stack of Bitcoin out of all the Bitcoin miners. So that's a big, big part of their equation. Now, they don't mine a lot of Bitcoin anymore. They're probably not going to add too much to that stack. But one of the things the monthly operational updates was doing for me, despite the fact that they have said, management has said, they will potentially utilize some of that for growth. But since their merger of equals, they really had not spent any of their stack. So, to me, that was encouraging. If they do spend some of it, I would want to see a simultaneous press release that, hey, we're doing this big thing. Here's this great news. And, okay, we're going to use some of our Bitcoin for it. I think people would probably be okay with that if it was something that was furthering, the company. But right now we're in a little bit of a vacuum of information.
I did not go to Young Thud's trial. But, dude, can you believe that the judge tried to throw the attorney in contempt and then he immediately appealed it and he got it thrown out? I thought that was amazing.
I'm
ex parte.
I'm not surprisingly totally ignorant to what you're talking about.
Okay, so in Fulton County, there's somebody being tried for murder and all that. And the judge met with the defendant, with the district attorney, and not the other attorney present.
Oh.
And it's proven. The attorney, the defendant attorney said that, he knew about the conversation and he wouldn't tell him how come he knew it, and he held him in contempt. I mean, the trial is going to be a mistrial. There's no doubt in my mind. But I just can't imagine what's going to happen to that judge in Fulton County.
Of all places.
Yep. Is there a merger going on with CleanSpark? I don't think so.
I don't see anything official about that, but I know.
Any thoughts on the GRIID CleanSpark merger?
I know that's being talked about, so I'm just my only thoughts are I wait for, if something's going to happen, we'll get an official press release.
What's the rumor mill?
Well, obviously this company Grid, and this would be the kind of an infrastructure play that CleanSpark talked about. So I don't know if it was on our members only stream or if on last Friday's stream, people were saying, there was talk about CleanSpark buying Bitfarms. And I had talked about the fact that they really, really, on their conference call for their last quarterly earnings, they were pretty crystal clear that they were not going to do anything like that. So, of course, you can't never say never, because CEOs can say one thing and do another. But they went out of their way to say they were not going to go buy a publicly traded Bitcoin mining company. They were looking for infrastructure plays. They want, they need to increase their infrastructure. They want to use their own machines. They want to get power purchase agreements, get infrastructure shell. They even talked about the fact that even when we buy infrastructure, we're probably going to swap out all the parts for, to do it our way, the CleanSpark way. So that's these types of mergers. And he said, private, in all likelihood, private companies that have infrastructure and access to power, we don't want to buy somebody else's Bitcoin mining machine fleet. So
somebody wrote down, posted on X, high confidence that there would be an acquisition by CleanSpark for Grid in the coming days.
Yeah, so it sounds like Grid got a big pop off of that from 57 cents to $1.30 to $1.60. And that might be 100% true. This is one of those 50-50s. If we pursued everything that was posted on X, it wouldn't be 50-50. It would be, 1 out of 100, but a lot of these big speculation things don't ever end up happening, and we don't know what the details are. So we'll have to wait and see. But there is, whether they buy Grid or somebody else, they were also crystal clear. They raised $500 million at the beginning of the year and then immediately closed that out and opened an $800 million at the market offering. That's $1.3 billion they intend to raise in 2024. They don't have to use all that in 2024, but that is for infrastructure and machines to get to, they're talking about getting to 50 exahash by the end of 2025. So, there's a long way from where they are right now to get there. And so they will be doing acquisitions. And an acquisition always isn't necessarily what you think about it. We think about mergers and acquisitions. We think, is a Bitcoin mining company going to buy another big Bitcoin mining company? But what they really need is infrastructure.
Today's the first day of summer, everyone.
Hey, happy summer. Wow, that's incredible. This year is flying. We're at 88 likes. If you enjoy this content, if you want to help the channel, please smash the like button. Get us to 100 likes.
Does anybody watch golf? That's my new thing, Tom.
Watching golf?
Watching golf, yeah.
That is not.
Dude, this guy Brenton, this guy's a stud.
Are you watching golf as we speak?
No, I am not. But I'm just wondering if anybody watches it. It's the most amazing player since Tiger Woods, basically, in the golf arena.
I'm paying very little attention to golf. Is it the guy who got arrested?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, this guy got arrested, dude, and he just won the U.S. Open last week. And the last hole, Tom, he didn't even land on the fairway, and he was able to birdie the hole. I couldn't believe it. Was just unbelievable. Yeah, it just.
I do know who you're talking about. I don't remember his name, but I know he's one of the top guys, and I think all that got cleared up, and he's okay. But that was right in the middle of a big tournament.
Oh yeah, that was the day he won. He got
Lowry.
Is
like that Barry saying Lowry?
No, it's not Lowry. It's I forget his last name. D something. Blah, blah, blah. I thought his first name was Brunson. That's why I just call him that. I mean, so they came up with a new league too called this Live or Love Golf.
Oh, right. That was huge controversy back.
Oh my goodness, that thing's awesome. Yeah. They're doing it differently. But this guy won the US Open, won another tournament, and then it's insane. This guy's he slept 12 hours. There it is. Bryson
DeChambeau.
Oh, you say Bryson. But that guy is just unbelievable. I mean, it's just so cool.
Oh, and Scotty Scheffler was the one that got arrested. Thank you, Crypto Golfer, of all people. Crypto Golfer gets us up to speed on what's going on in golf. Thank you very much. That's awesome.
Tom, do you think we're ever going to have an alt season again?
I do. I think we're far away from it, though. I mean, the alts have been getting wrecked, and let's go take a look. I was looking at one of our favorite things we like to look at is the total market cap. So the total market cap, and this is probably too small for you guys to read on my screen, $2.35 trillion. So that was over 2.8 at one point, heading back towards 3 where it was back in the day. So we got to get through. I think we're a ways out. Now, of course, there's always going to be coins that run. There's going to be meme coins, and there'll be coins that have good runs. But I think true alt season, for me, in my opinion, we're pretty far away from. But let's talk about, since you bring that up, there is a big thing that happened technically in the altcoin world, although I would argue it's hard to say this is an altcoin anymore. But Ethereum. So technically, the definition of an altcoin is every single coin other than Bitcoin. But, I mean, if we're being honest, if we go look at that chart, just go back there for a second. Bitcoin has a market cap of $1.26 trillion. Ethereum has a market cap of $429 billion. Other than stable coins, the next closest coin is $86 billion. So, Ethereum it's hard to say they're an altcoin when people think of altcoins. But I do think, with altcoins, people are talking about, Solana, XRP, Dogecoin, obviously, as we go down the list, Cardano, Avalanche, there's still a lot of these names that people know, and some new names popping up. Look how far down Polygon is right now. So what are your thoughts, George? I know you've looked at Polygon in the past. Polygon's at 57 cents.
It just seems like nothing's moving. I thought it was going to move during the Juneteenth. You know what I mean? It kind of had some fun that day.
Did it move on that day?
Yeah, but it just came right back.
Barry C is saying altcoin season comes after the ETH ETFs. So there was rumor. I saw a bunch of articles that the ETH ETFs, that the SEC said they were targeting September. Now I saw a bunch of articles this week. There was rumors maybe somewhere right after July 4th. So, but the last thing that came from the SEC was September. But I want to just go into this article a little bit more because there's something going on here, and I do think it's ultimately going to be a very good thing. So inside of all these little negative stories that have been impacting us in the short term, SEC drops investigation into Ethereum 2.0 in a major victory for the cryptocurrency industry. The halting of the SEC investigation boosted markets' confidence around the world's second largest cryptocurrency. So this is, a lot of people are saying now it's Ethereum is not a security. It will not be, fall under the SEC, just like Bitcoin. So Bitcoin's already there and has been for a long time. It seems like this is putting Ethereum in the same place. So, in a very short order, Gary Gensler, head of the SEC, went from like a hard line in the sand, suing everybody that he could get his hands on in the crypto universe, all the exchanges, coming after certain cryptocurrencies in specific, not one of which Ethereum for a long time. This is a long-standing situation. So, in a very short order, all of a sudden, the spot ETFs get approved. Now, that's a two-part process. They're not actually trading yet, the Ethereum ETFs. So that is a catalyst for Ethereum. When those start trading, I do think there will be an inflow. And just like Bitcoin got a big bump when those started trading. So all we've got to trade is the news so far that, they approved these. But they're not trading yet. So sometime, whether it be in July or like the SEC initially said last week, more towards September, sometime sooner than later, Ethereum will start trading. But I want to find a sentence in here. This individual, whose name I will not mispronounce, pointed out the broader political context, noting recent shifts in the Biden administration's stance on crypto. So again, we try to be apolitical, but politics is a part of this. And I talked about this. I don't know if it was with the members or everybody. I don't care which side of the aisle it is. Insert name here, whether it's Biden or Trump. anytime either one of these two presidential candidates does something Bitcoin or crypto friendly, this is good news for our little universe here. So the Biden, he mentioned the surprise approval of an Ethereum exchange traded fund, suggesting that these moves indicate a softer approach towards the industry. Great news for, quote, great news for Ethereum, but more importantly, great news for the industry. If this path continues, that pivot continues, then the election's going to be a net positive for the industry. So this is an election year in the US. We got, still 5+ months until the election, and it seems like both candidates are being forced into a more crypto-friendly stance. So all of that to me is good news as it comes up. This hard line in the sand, and I don't know, in particular, Gary Gensler, which is not an elected official, that's the head of the SEC, really seemed to have it out for cryptocurrency, but that has clearly, there's been a big shift in that in the last very short period of time. Agree or disagree, George?
Somebody definitely made him change his mind.
Right. This came from orders above. Because he didn't wake up one day and say, oh, you know what, this thing I've been like pounding the table on, I'm out. It's over. Everything's good. So, in my mind, before we get to altcoin season, and somebody just said that, one of our members just said this, Barry C said alt season comes after the ETH ETF. So I do think it'll be a while, though. I think Ethereum will start to pick up after these ETFs come on, but I still think Bitcoin, I don't think Bitcoin's done having Bitcoin dominance. So I think we got to go through that. We got to go through Ethereum, and then I think we get alt season, and they make us wait for this stuff. It's always longer than we think it's going to be. It's always longer than we want it to be. This is how they wash people out and get everybody's Bitcoin or Ethereum or whatever cryptocurrency you're in. It's the waiting game, and the big money can wait longer, is trained to and does wait longer than most retail investors. So it looks like after hours, I just went to the 15-minute chart real quick. We're kind of just hanging around here. We're a little under 64,000 now, so
yeah, I don't think they're buying.
So then we go to the other news. So this did not move the needle. Michael Saylor's MicroStrategy acquires 11.9K more Bitcoin. So almost 12,000 more Bitcoin, $786 million. And one of the things, I talked about this, and it was fairly predictable because it's happened every single time. They were looking to raise $500 million in debt. This is, let me see if it says the terms of this debt. The terms of this debt are spectacular. They were looking to raise, and the demand was so much greater than that, they ultimately ended up raising $800 million. So you can see they spent $786 million of it, acquiring 11,900 Bitcoin, 11,931 Bitcoin.
Oh.
So even with all of that, Bitcoin was still down this week because I'll go to the other chart. So here's the Bitcoin spot ETFs by day. So this was yesterday. $139 million of outflow. The day before was not it was a holiday in the US, so the trading day before, negative $152 million. So this is all of the, I think 11, however many spot ETFs in the US. This is the net inflow or outflow. So you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days in a row, not counting today. So today will be 6 days in a row, 1 green day, and then 2 more red days. So that's 5, 6, 7, 8. I think by the time we get today's numbers, we're going to find out that 8 out of the last 9 days, which is basically, since that was a holiday, there have been 9 trading days in the last 2 weeks. So all 8 out of the 9 were negative, were outflows. So that really corresponds when you look at the 2-week chart. You can see why we've done that. But unless you believe that, this is the new norm and now people are, the Bitcoin ETFs are done and it's going to be outflows. So let me go to another chart that shows, we've had some of these. We just had a historic run. This run right here, this I think was 18 days in a row of inflows. And you can see this day was the second biggest day of inflow in, the history of the ETFs, which remember only dates back to, I think, this is saying January 12th. I thought maybe it got approved on the 11th, traded on the 12th. So it's just since January, but this is the longest run we've had. But you can see the runs in the red tend to not last very long. So, we're now 8 out of the last 9 days. So history is telling us that we're probably getting to the end of these outflows. Obviously, there's no guarantee. There's only a very short amount of history to go by here on these ETFs, but I think we'll probably see a shift, as we talked about. We'll get a bottoming out in Bitcoin. We'll see a shift back into inflows in the ETFs. And, hopefully whatever and whenever the bottom is, this is the next move up. So, but, it's no surprise if everyone's wondering what happened these last couple of weeks. I mean, these are strong outflow numbers. So here so here's the terms. MicroStrategy completes $800 million offering, 2.25% convertible senior notes due in the year 2032. So effectively what MicroStrategy continues to do, they're borrowing money at 2%, 2.25%. So they're buying $800 million worth of Bitcoin at, let's just say it was $67,000 for the sake of argument. This has to either get paid off or converted to equity 8 years from now. So what's Bitcoin going to be 8 years from now? Right? If it's $500,000, if it's $1 million, right? So he gets to borrow money, pay it back when Bitcoin's worth 5 or 10 or 20 times more. And again, that's no guarantee, but I think most of us think Bitcoin's going, I'll do a poll.
Going up, Tom. Just over year till it goes down. Then it goes back up.
That's right.
Till it goes down.
So I'm going to pick what I think is a minimum target, but let's see if you guys agree or disagree. Will Bitcoin be over $500,000 by the year 2030? That is 6 years from now. So bear that in mind. We'll have another halving between now and then. So in my mind, that's a minimum number, but I don't know. What do you think, George?
So it's going to be 100,000 just to break even, basically.
Based on paying interest.
Yeah. It's going to be right around there, right?
That's
right.
right.
Energy consumption and machines. If it's not there, it's going to be closer to there than where it is today. How about that one?
You're saying to mine a Bitcoin is going to be
it's
probably going to be all of that. That's right. So that's a great point you bring up. That's probably a conservative estimate of what the cost will be to mine a Bitcoin if things continue in any way similar to what they've been doing. Obviously if there's some massive change that we're not accounting for, who knows?
And just think about this. I think what did it go down to? Like less than 250,000 wallets have whole coins in them now?
I'm not sure. You got... Oh, Barry C said we're over 100 likes. Thank you, everybody. Smash the like button.
Thank you.
If you haven't yet, we would appreciate it.
We were at like 322,000 or something like that, and now it's down to 250.
That have over
less than that.
Bitcoin. That's a really small number. And the thing is, it's going to be harder and harder and harder for people to get one Bitcoin. And for as hard as it seems at, 60 something or $70,000 right now, if this cycle is anything like the last ones, we're headed towards much higher numbers. So this is pretty close right now. So vote Put your vote in. Will Bitcoin be over 500,000 by 2030? Right now, 70% think yes, 30% think no.
So
that's
I got one for you, Tom. This was a big rumor mill that has been going around. I haven't seen it lately in like the last few weeks. Could Bitcoin be confiscated like gold was confiscated way back when?
here's the thing. Confiscated, how would be the question. Now, in the United States, my first answer to that is I just think that is such an unbelievably low percent chance of happening that it's negligible. It rounds down to 0 in my opinion. Now,
Okay.
That's my opinion. I'm sure there's somebody else out there that would argue vigorously that that's entirely possible. It would not be unprecedented, but it would be, in modern history, that would be, I just can't fathom a scenario. And especially as, like we just talked about, we now have both candidates having a much more favorable view of all of this. We have the regulatory agencies coming around in specific on Bitcoin. And, you asked about Bitcoin. I just feel like the debate's over on Bitcoin, and, it's here to stay. There's, are they going to take BlackRock's Bitcoin away from BlackRock?
Yeah.
I feel like that's an unlikely scenario. This is a pretty close poll. 2/3, 1/3 on this 500K thing.
Crazy. I thought it'd be higher than that.
Yeah, I did too. I wonder what number. Oh, maybe we'll try another number after.
If you voted no, what number do you think it would be? What number do you think it'll be in 2030? 200,000? 250?
Yeah, drop in the comments.
150? It'd be nice to know. 475,000?
If you think it's going to be 475,000, then I would vote yes for 500.
That's why I voted yes, because I thought it was going to be 475,000.
That's your target.
That's my target.
So, CleanSpark did have an actual announcement in the meantime this week. This isn't a game changer or anything, but CleanSpark announces acquisition of 5 new Bitcoin mining facilities in Georgia, adding 60 megawatts of infrastructure. So, the big takeaway in my mind out of this is acquisitions are expected to increase the company's operating hash rate to over 20 exahash by month's end, using already purchased hardware. So they've got the hardware purchased. They're buying this. That sounds like this is all happening imminently and quickly by the end of the month. They're going to have this up and running. I think they're at 18 exahash right now, and this will get them to 20 exahash. So you can see, right, CleanSpark's been on the move. They came into this year at, I think, 10 exahash. So, they got from 10 to 17, and now it took them a little bit to get from 17 to 20, and they're talking, their goal is to get to 30 and then 50. So they have been, and this is why CleanSpark shareholders have been rewarded throughout the year. This is a company that's executed in a big way. Iris Energy is another company that has had massive execution this year. They're over 10 exahash right now. Their stock's gone ballistic. Core Scientific, their stock went ballistic, and they've been performing very well from a Bitcoin mining standpoint, but they are the one company where I would argue that they got a high-performance computing or AI contract, if you will, that was a $290 million a year, potentially with, options to extend, potentially a 12-year, $290 million a year contract. That was a game changer for them, and their stock absolutely skyrocketed on that. So, those are the companies that have been leading the way so far this year. There's a lot of companies with big growth plans. So I do think good stuff is ahead in the rest of the year. Barry's saying the poll is different if you said, will Bitcoin have reached 500K by 2030? I think accounting for the fact that, you know, we could be potentially in a crypto winter in 2030 and it may have pulled back and not be at its peak. So that's possible that some people are saying, you know, doing the math, saying we're going to be right in the middle between halvings.
Why did we get a sell-off today? Tom Ron's asking. And I don't know him, so I think he's new.
Why did we get a sell-off in the Bitcoin miners?
Yeah, I would say that.
I mean, I think we got a sell-off in the Bitcoin miners because if you look, let me go back to the chart because I think it's important to look at the chart. Even with today's sell-off, here's what the Bitcoin miners did this week. So the Bitcoin miners for the last really 9 weeks have been on a huge run. So we've been talking on the channel for the last week that, and I pointed a couple out in specific, Iris Energy and Core Scientific. I talked about, I think on last Friday's stream, definitely on the Tuesday members only stream. And I talked about the daily RSI was at historic levels. In addition to that, you know, if you look at recent activity, Core Scientific was up 290%, you know, in an 8-week period. Iris Energy was up 218%. TeraWulf up 115%. So at some point, these things will take a breather. I feel like that's what this is. And that doesn't mean I think it starts going back up in a straight line Monday morning. But when you get vicious runs like this, these things will take a breather. And I've really tried to say, we get gigantic green days, and we do get, from time to time, we're going to get big red days. That is a part of the massive volatility that is Bitcoin miners. So I know, you know, in my weekend update video, I think I tried to drive this point home that just expect there's going to be a big red day out here sooner than later, because that's how this works. So today was that day. It's no surprise that it was on a Friday sell-off. Bitcoin had weakness yesterday and today, and the Bitcoin miners sold off. They didn't really even finish at their lows of the day. They were a little bit lower intraday, a lot of them, but it was a rough day. So we just looked at a lot of the reasons why Bitcoin is selling off. Bitcoin and the Bitcoin miners don't always move exactly in tandem, and we've seen really in the year 2024, the correlation has been very weak. But today is one of those red days that I was talking about. So while this day is very disappointing to me, it's the opposite of a surprise. And, you know, I didn't know that this was going to be today, but this is how this works. And it was a rough day. I mean, you know, you got, of the big companies, Marathon down 7%, Riot 8%, Cleanspark just under 10%, Cypher just under 13%, TeraWulf 10%, Iris Energy. So of the big, you know, in relative in terms of the Bitcoin miners, of the largest market caps, Iris Energy was down 4.4%. So that actually performed very well today, especially considering, you know, it's the second best performing over the last couple of months. So I do just think, like, hopefully these are the days you don't want to panic, because the volatility is real. And a lot of people in the comments are sick of me saying that in my videos, but today is why I say that, because this is what happens. And it will happen again. We're getting it somewhere out there. We'll get another red day. It could be even, we could get another red day before we start getting green days. But you can see the trend, you know, for the last several months, the Bitcoin miners seem to have bottomed out, and they are trending in the right direction. And even after this red day, I do think it is important, you know, and that's why we have these live streams. I think it's important to look at the week in general. You know, more than half of the Bitcoin miners, of the now 12 that we look at, we did pare this list down. We were looking at 19. I'll just show you. These are the nano caps that I got rid of. This was what they did last week, not this week. So Mawson, Gree, Stronghold, DigiHost, Any, which is Sphere 3D, DMG, and Argo Blockchain. All of those 7 on the average had a market cap of $45 million. The 12 that we're following now, if I go back to this chart, these 12, and there's two that are a little bit lower, but these 12 on the average are $2 billion. So 45 million versus 2 billion. I just felt like it was crystal clear. You know, these two groups are very, very different at this point. So, you know, these 12 companies make up almost the entire market cap of the publicly traded Bitcoin mining companies. The two that are much smaller than their peers on this list are Hive and Bit Digital, which are more in the $300 million range. The rest are, you know, anywhere from 1 billion to all the rest are over $1 billion. And, you know, Marathon's over 5 billion. CleanSpark was over 4 billion. We'll just take a look. You know, here's Bitfarms at the low end of those at 1.2 billion. CleanSpark's 3.9 billion, so just under $4 billion. So you could see there was 7 of these stocks that were just not like the others. We've been leading up to this for the last year. We've been talking about the fact that, you know, in my opinion, there would be winners and losers. We talked about that, you know, back in November and December of 2022. We were saying, listen, the bull market is ahead, but this one's not going to be like the last ones. There's too much competition, and some of these companies just had to make changes during the crypto winter that just weren't going to get them to where they needed to go, in my opinion. So we have finally, all of that is to say that we finally pulled that out of our charts. These are the 12 big Bitcoin miners. And even inside of here, HUT actually, you know, is lagging behind from a Bitcoin mining standpoint, but they have the second biggest stack of Bitcoin as far as we know. Hopefully they'll tell us sooner than later. So that still leaves them in the conversation of Bitcoin and Bitcoin mining. So let's see. What did we forget? Any other thoughts, George? Any other poll? Should we? So I'm going to final out this poll. Will Bitcoin be over 500,000 in 2023? This turned out to be just about 60-40. Very close. 61% say yes. 39% say no. So even in this group, and this group is probably biased to the upside. Bias is the wrong word, but you know, this is, most people watching are Bitcoin friendly.
We're in the know, Tom.
We're in the know. That's right. This is a group that's in the know. So this should be more accurate polling than the general population. Or at least we'd like to think so. So we'll end that poll.
Me, I'm in shock that CleanSpark got so low personally.
Today?
Yeah.
I mean, today was just that day.
Yeah.
And I just, again, if you hold Bitcoin mining stocks, we get these days. Even if all the Bitcoin mining stocks by the end of this run have doubled or tripled or quadrupled or 5x or whatever they do, we get days like this. It's just always happened. So, and the more overheated we get, I want to go to Iris in specific. Well, let's go to.
You know, but the problem is when you're holding 300,000 shares, Tom, it hurts.
Absolutely. This is a painful day to have a day like this. So you can see the run that Iris Energy took in a short period of time when we talked about it. You know, that's up 214% and, you know, from this is May 14th to June 13th. So, you know, that's over 200% in a month. And in that time, the previous, so I had a line here at 82, and it looks like it popped above this one time a little bit, but essentially, so really it's a little bit higher than this, 83.5. On the daily RSI, 83.5 it looks like was the all-time high in the history of Iris Energy, which has only been trading for a couple of years, but that's a decent history. I mean, it was up to 87. It when the daily RSI is at 87, nobody should be surprised if we get a little bit of a cool-off period at that time. And that doesn't mean Iris is done and it's all down from here. The daily RSI can reset with even just a slight pullback and a period of sideways consolidation, which I think is what Bitcoin is doing right now. We see the exact same thing. Bitcoin is trading up and down inside of a range, and the daily RSI has gone from almost 70 down to almost 30. So, it's had a big move to the downside. That kind of reset allows the next run. So when you're up in the 80s, 70s considered overbought for most things. I say in cryptocurrency world, it's more like 80. But when you're at 87, this is what starts to happen. So, that one, we saw Core Scientific have a big pullback. So, Core Scientific's daily RSI was over 90. It was 91. If ever there was a day where you could be pretty confident that sooner than later there was going to be a pullback, it's when, the daily RSI is at 91. So, I know today is ugly and frustrating, but if you look at even, some of this is like, you don't know what day it's going to be, but this is a gigantic signal that at some point sooner than later, you're going to get a cool off, you're going to get a pullback. These technicals reset. You won't find a company where the daily RSI gets up to 90 and then it just stays there forever and just keeps going up. There's right, people, if nothing else, after a giant run like this, some people want to take profits. Right? They just had a massive, this stock in particular, if we go from May 1st, so a month and a half, from May 1st to June 13th, this is up 274% in a month and a half. So is it a shock that some people took some profits and we have a pullback here, especially as Bitcoin had a little pullback in the same period of time? So I just like to go through and look at some of these. And if you look at this, unfortunately, the momentum is moving towards, potentially a bearish crossover and maybe a little more consolidation for Core Scientific. Right? So that's no guarantee. Sometimes you'll see these green candles get almost to zero and then bounce off of here and have another run up. So, there's no guarantee that we'll have a bearish crossover and go into the red. But that's more normal behavior. If you look at something more established like Marathon, you'll see, it tends to go from green to red to green to red to green to red. And so Marathon's, not unlike those other stocks. And if you remember for those of you who weren't here, I talked about the fact that Marathon and Riot to me are in the middle of a consolidation period. Their daily RSIs are not at 70 or 80 or 90. This just moved from 54 to, 47. So this is a picture of consolidation. And you'll also see even here, no real momentum on the MACD, on the histogram, these green and red lines, no big momentum. Like this, we were way up here on, a big move to the upside. So we're not seeing that. We're just seeing a lot of sideways. And if we go to Riot, I think you're going to see something very similar. Right? Here's Riot is even, this is like just nothing. There's just no momentum here at all. And then look at the trading window here, just totally sideways inside of a super tight range. The daily RSI in that same time, just absolutely sideways. So to me, I think these things tell me, I don't know when, but I'm encouraged with Riot and Marathon's technicals. That technicals are not the only thing. We get monthly operational reports from these guys. We get the price action on Bitcoin. And so, these, no one piece of data exists in a vacuum. So always, obviously, please be careful. Don't just look at one thing and assume you know what's going to happen, because none of us know what's going to happen. The other noteworthy thing is, just want to show you the global hash rate, the difficulty level. So since the halving, we've had a little reprieve. In the year prior to that, the global network more than doubled. So, that was massive, massive growth. And that puts a lot of pressure on the Bitcoin miners, right? Because effectively, the global hash rate doubling is effectively the same as a halving. So, if it's twice as hard to mine Bitcoin, that's the same as the reward getting cut in half. So, we didn't just get one or the other. We got both. It got twice as hard to mine Bitcoin, and then the reward got cut in half. And still, these companies, a lot of them that we're looking at, put themselves in a position to be cash flow positive and or profitable. So I'm encouraged by all that. And since the halving, you'll see we've had about every 2 weeks, we get a change in the difficulty level. And you'll see we got a big move to the downside. We had a little 1.48% move to the upside. The last two in a row were, one of which was yesterday, 0.79 to the downside, so almost no change at all. And then 0.05 to the downside, almost no change at all. So that's a couple of months of going sideways in the global hash rate, which is a really nice reprieve for the Bitcoin miners, especially since that coincided with the halving. A lot of companies were expecting a huge pullback. We didn't really get a huge pullback, but what we did get is a lot of sideways activity here, and I think that's helping the Bitcoin miners. So we'll see how this trend, but this trend is important to look at, right? If this were to skyrocket, that would put a lot of pressure on the Bitcoin miners if the price of Bitcoin didn't move up along with it.
What's the fear and greed index at right now, Tom?
Good question, George. Let's go to the fear and greed index. So we are now, yesterday we were at 60. We're now at 63, and then we'll get an adjustment in 2 hours from now. So it will probably go down. We could go down. 60 is about as low as we've been in a little while, right? The last time we were under that was May 13th. So every day since then has been over 60. Most of the days, you can see we had a long run over 70, between 70 and the high here of 78. So we did just recently dip, which is encouraging. That's another thing to see the fear and greed index resetting. This doesn't need to reset into fear or extreme fear. We are in a bull market. So for this to get down to 60, 60, it might get under 60 in this next one. So this, to me, this is a reset. We don't have to get to 50 or 40. So that's encouraging. You can see just last month we were at 76. So and we can be in the mid 80s for periods of time. If I go out to a longer time frame, right, you can see in December of 2020, we were over 90 for, weeks and weeks. And, we got over 80 in November of 2021. That's when we had our peak in the previous cycle. So, and then you can see, this graph just shows we've been trending upwards. This is the bull market that we've been talking. We've been trending upwards for a while, but, if you zoom in, we have a nice little pullback here. So, I think all this looks very healthy for the, short to medium term. Kevin K saying thinks the fear and greed index is a good tool.
I'm always opposite of it.
Well, and that's what you should be. As fear, this is the exact point of this. As these cool off and reset, that is the time to buy. So, not financial advice. Obviously, I'm not telling anybody to buy anything, but, and as we talked about, no one data point or indicator is the be all end all. But when you take all these things, all the things that we're looking at put together, you start to paint a picture of what is to come.
Dude, I'm looking at my face on the stream,
Uh-huh.
I'm always touching myself, hitting myself, rubbing my eyes, rubbing my hair. I can't get comfortable today. Yes, very much so.
Well, I actually have family coming over at 6 o'clock, which is 4 minutes from now. So any parting thoughts?
No, none for me. So, everybody asked about your AC. Is it good?
Long story. We had it we had another glitch, and we might be having another one as we speak. So I'll find out after the
Oh,
stream.
geez, I'm
I'll
sorry,
go
buddy.
check.
Jeez, unbelievable.
That's all right. It's been 90% good, but I thought we were out of the woods, and then we had a glitch. So thank you for asking, whoever asked. Life's a journey.
I'll see you, buddy.
All right,
Nice,
everybody.
nice stream, everyone.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks for joining us. George, thanks for joining us. Everybody have a fantastic weekend. Go Bitcoin, and we'll see you guys next week.